What's up, Steelers fans? Welcome in for another week talking about a Steelers victory. Before I get to that, I want to talk about something I heard this past week, a stat, Zach Taylor. I don't remember what the exact number is, but he apparently coaches very poorly. The Bengals have performed very poorly in one-score games that he's coached for them. And I know a lot of people around here aren't, Mike Tomlin's biggest fans. There are a lot of critics of his. But the consistency that he provides, his ability to win those one-score games more often than not, to find a way to come out ahead, often with a highly inferior level of talent. So I just want to do that real quick. Tomlin appreciation segment. Getting into today's game, I was going to wear my Cam Sutton jersey to commemorate his first game back from that suspension. But, I've been back on my believe women bullshit lately, so I think it would be a little hypocritical of me to wear a shirt with the guy's name on it who is accused of strangling the mother of his children unto the point of unconsciousness, allegedly, to all of that. But just a guy that I can't bring myself to support. I won't wear his name, but I'll cheer for him when he makes a good play for my team. But even with Sutton back, Beanie Bishop seems to have retained his role as that nickel corner, so that's good to see. Bishop was very lucky to have not given up a touchdown early in this game. He was saved by a drop in the back of the end zone. He let his guy get behind him, and he ended up in chase mode. And, Jaden Daniels put it on him, and I don't know how. I think it was Brown. Whoever it was back there definitely wasn't Scary Terry, but he's, I'm sure, kicking himself right now, considering how the game ended up. But speaking of guys who are back, Zach Frazier made his return. And the only time we heard his name today was a holding penalty. And when you don't think or talk a lot about a guy on the offensive line, that tends to mean he had a pretty good day. The same play that they ran at the goal line for the Najee touchdown with the tackle eligible Spencer Anderson, everyone blocking down this way, and then a pulling guard coming around front to lead the way. They ran that same play on 4th down and 1 in the fourth quarter there when Najee was off the field at that point, ran it with Jaylen Warren. Same play, same tackle eligible. They had to announce it to the whole stadium before they ran the play both times. Ended up running the same play both times. Washington couldn't stop it either time. The most notable thing to me was the push, and it was most notable on the touchdown. The Steelers' offensive line just completely washing out the Washington defensive line. As far as Najee, I've said this each of the last 3 weeks. He's doing a much better job of running around guys instead of always trying to run over guys or jump over them. There were a number of runs tonight where he was juking guys behind the line and then getting loose and then making a couple more guys miss and then lowering his head and running through arms to get the last couple yards there. So it seems like a philosophy shift in Najee's run style. I wonder if that's him trying to keep his body healthy for in this contract season. Speaking of which, there was that scary moment when Najee was down on the ground. He was laying on his side. Almost looks like he couldn't. He seemed to be in a lot of pain. I thought for a second they were trying to immobilize him, but moments later you see him just jump up onto his feet, and then they said he jogged off the field, and he was obviously in pain on the sideline for a little bit, but he was able to return to the game. That man is just built of, adamantium and whatever Wolverine's claws are made out of. That man is just made of adamantium. It's ridiculous. He has not missed a single football game in his entire football career, and he's well into his 4th season now, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down. We hope that something doesn't pop up for him in the injury report this week. Obviously, that thing's going to swell up. Whatever did happen to him is going to hurt more tomorrow than it hurts now. I hope that doesn't limit him going into practice, and certainly not into next week. There was a moment of levity that I found during this game after the roughing the passer penalty by Jeremy Chin on Russell Wilson. Ian Eagle said something to the effect, I have it written down here. He said, Wilson officially took it on the chin. So Charles, it looked like Wilson took it on the chin there, didn't it? Well, yeah, it sure did, Ian. Looked like looked like a little bit of chin on chin contact to me. A little bit of levity there in the booth there. You love to see that when sports guys are actually funny, as opposed to most sports guys trying to be funny, which just ends up being cringe. George Pickens had quite an up and down day. First with the touchdown, it was an incredible adjustment on that ball. You might say that Wilson poorly threw that ball. I think that was perfect placement to where only his guy could get it. If Pickens didn't make a play on that ball, no one was going to be able to. So I think that was a good play, better adjustment, fantastic body control from Pickens, great hands to bring that thing in and to avoid losing it as he's rolling over it. So after that hot start for Pickens, there was another time where Wilson was looking for him deep up the left sideline and kind of floated up there a little bit too much into double coverage too. But Pickens needs to do a better job in that scenario of becoming a defensive back. We were just talking about his ability to adjust on balls that are in the air. You need to adjust on that, come back on it, and even if you don't have a great chance of catching it, you need to make darn sure that their guy can't catch it. There was that play where he had that nice catch and run, headed low into the Commanders' red zone there. Another play where he was running with the ball in his hands, the ball just holding it like a baseball, not tucked at all, just holding it like this with his offhand, stiff arming people, doing jump stiff arms to a guy's face mask. What are you doing? Are you? I'm sure that was the same guy who he tackled on the interception chance, like trying to get back at him some way. Mike Tomlin needs to take him aside like he did the to Marquise Pouncey in a clip I just saw on Twitter this past week of Tomlin's yelling at Pouncey and he's saying, "But coach, the guy's punching me in my face." And Tomlin's telling him, "I don't care about any of that personal stuff going on between the two of you. It's about the team right now. If you want to go fight the guy in the parking lot after the game, that's your business. Right now, we're playing a game of football, and I need you to put the team above yourself in whatever pride that you're dealing with." We've seen way too many moments of those from Pickens at this point to still be waiting for him to mature. So he is what he is at this point, but I'm not going to get too mad about it as long as the pros keep outweighing the cons. But he made sure to leave it on a positive note on a back shoulder throw up the left sideline, where he wasn't taking any chances after losing that touchdown 2 weeks ago in the end zone for only getting 1 foot down in twice instead of getting both feet down. This dude, going out of bounds, got 4 feet in, got both feet down 2 times each. At the end of the day with Pickens, it just comes down to inconsistency. You see the insane highs, the insane talent, the insane ability, but at the same time, you see plays that, he's not doing anything. He's giving up interceptions. He's not blocking. A big hot button issue about this game, and fortunately, they ended up winning, the Steelers did, or else it would have been that much bigger, but was the fake punt. I'm certain that play wasn't called in the huddle, but they got to the line, saw that Washington was in tight. The Steelers Depot boys called this out on their podcast this week. The Washington Jammers are super aggressive on their punt team. They want to lock up your gunners, make sure you can't get downfield. And on that particular situation, they were brought in tight to try to get a block there. And I'm sure Danny Smith and the special team unit were watching tape, saw that Washington likes to do this, and they installed this thing that if they come into this tight look, we're going to do this thing where we try to go over the top, and everything worked perfect. They just couldn't execute the catch on the back end with James Pierre. I know a lot of people are going to be blaming coaching for that, but like I said, it was not a play that was called. It was an adjustment to a play, and everything lined up perfectly for it. So it was the right call to make, but the guy just dropped the ball. And the counter to that could be, I don't care about how if it was the perfect call. The risk reward just wasn't there. It was too risky, that low in your own territory. And I kind of get that argument, but they also noted this on the broadcast that the Steelers felt because of how great they had done in their second drive, the Pickens touchdown drive, their ability to just move the ball at will. They thought that they were completely in control at that point, and they could get a dagger play right there, and they were just that close from getting it. And if you can win the game in the first quarter, by all means, go ahead and do it. If you can take their running game completely out of it, force them to go to the air, make them that much less two-dimensional, that's obviously good for your defense. For Russell Wilson, it was a rough start. I think he only had like 40 yards of passing in the first half. He was putting a lot of balls up there, and Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson were having a hard time tracking them in the air and running under them. He was expecting them to be able to adjust to those balls in a Pickens-esque fashion, and they were having a hard time doing that. I think the one to Jefferson might just be a drop, but Austin certainly has trouble tracking them. But he was looking over both shoulders. He had a hard time finding that ball. I wonder if placement from Wilson might have been a factor. there. But with Austin's speed, he should be able to run under it pretty much no matter wherever you put it. So that was a little bit disconcerting from Wilson, but he certainly redeemed himself at the end with the Williams, dropping that one right in the bucket. Newest Steeler, Mike Williams, or I guess second newest Steeler with Preston Smith. And it was a good thing that Williams caught that ball too. Otherwise, the only highlight of him from his first game as a Steeler would have been getting slammed into in the back by Najee Harris because he was being too passive on the block. He was waiting for his guy to attack him instead of going out and getting him and being the aggressor there. So it's good that he found some other tape that we can put out for him. It was a tough day for JPJ in coverage, a couple penalties. I thought the face mask was not a face. I didn't see him any time where he grabbed the face mask. I thought there was shoulder grabbing. It might have been a holding, if nothing, if anything. But I didn't. He did not grab the face mask on the penalty that he was charged with the face mask. The DPI in the end zone I thought was pretty ticky tacky. I thought that was a great sell job from Scary Terry McLaurin. I thought both guys were locked into each other with their arms, and Terry knew this is a great time to just let my legs go out from under me. And he almost pulled Porter to the ground with him. And that's the only thing that could go wrong in that situation when you're trying to create a pass interference penalty is if you pull him down with you, then they're going to call that no flag. Both guys were pulling each other. But as it was, good job selling it by Terry. Hard luck for JPJ. He was clearly frustrated with the whistles he was getting because you could see right at the end of the third quarter, it looked like he was shouting over at the down judge there. Yeah, that was right before Hayward's second sack of the game. So it was the end of the third quarter. He's looking out. You can't see who the person he's talking to is off the screen, but it's not. It's the Washington sideline, so it's not anyone on his staff. I mentioned Cam Hayward's sack. He had two of them today. On this first one, he was being held as he made the sack. That was quite impressive. That guy's strength has aged like a fine wine. He might not have the stamina or the endurance or the track star speed that he had as a young man, but he is still getting it done as he's a big man. He needs to be accounted for. He's still the best this team has is a two gapper right now. He's hard to move, and he can bring guys down on either side of him. Still doing it at a very high level, and he's playing like he's pissed off at a bunch of you for thinking that he was done, thinking he was too old, too injured, too whatever. Seems like that guy's got a lot left to prove, and I couldn't be happier to see it. Another guy who's proving things right now is Patrick Queen. He's coming on in a big way. He had a couple tackles for loss in the first half today, the first of which was quite emphatic. There was talk of him being the lesser of the pairing between Roquan Smith and him in Baltimore, and the fact that he was struggling since he came here. People were saying he's not. He was his success in Baltimore was a factor of playing next to Roquan Smith and not his own talent. Well, things are kind of turning around for Patrick Queen here and kind of going the other way for Roquan Smith in Baltimore. Pat Fryermuth had a couple of huge conversions. He had a touchdown there was a bit of a pick play from Van Jefferson. There was some controversy after the Giants game of some offensive pass interference near the goal line. And the mistake that guy made was not turning to look to the quarterback, but instead turning straight to the flat to look where he knew the ball was going because he knew he wasn't running an actual route. He wasn't a passing option on that play. He's just trying to get in the way to get that guy open. And if you turn back this way to look for the quarterback, you have that plausible deniability. But if you just turn out to the flat, then it's like, well, come on, buddy. Everyone knows what you're doing out there. The second half started with that big 50-yard run, catch and run from Scary Terry. Minka missed a tackle on that play, and Joey Porter had to track him down. They obviously finished that off with an Eckler touchdown to go up 24-14. Minka redeemed himself at the end of the game on that last fourth down stop on Zach Ertz, that tackle, making sure he couldn't be able to twist his body to reach for that extra yardage. Great job of him and KZ of converging on that and making sure they didn't give up an extra inch. Although that drive probably shouldn't have existed in the first place because it started with a holding in the end zone on TJ Watt, which should have been a safety, should have been punting the ball back to the Steelers. The trajectory of that one would have been significantly different if that blatant hold, TJ being grabbed by the shoulders, the shoulder pads, and then taken all the way to the ground as he's bending the edge. Game probably would have ended the way that it ended, but who knows what route we would have taken to get there. It just seemed like they were calling him real tight on the Steelers, especially on Porter, and kind of really letting him go on the other side of it. Outside of those roughing the passer, the penalty on Wilson there was the blatant hit to the helmet. But never let it be said that I don't complain about officiating, even in Steelers' victories. But there's not much to quibble about overall about today's game. We look forward next week at 1 o'clock to Baltimore, opening the AFC North slate. It's going to be a tough back half of the schedule here. I believe I initially predicted 3-6 back when we were looking at Justin Fields going into that. I think I've changed my tune at least to 5-4 now with the one victory already. So 4-4 in the next coming games. I'm anticipating a sweep of Cleveland, split with in Cincinnati and Baltimore. So there's 4-2 there. The game today, that's 5-2, and then there's just Philly and Kansas City. So can you salvage a split there? If can you win one of those two games? We're going to learn a lot about them in this stretch, obviously, and we might feel a lot better about them. When it comes time to play a playoff game, we might feel a lot worse about them. They might not even be playing a playoff game. So whatever ends up happening on the back end for the Steelers team, just remember we've seen a lot of progress from a lot of young guys. We've got hope at the quarterback position. We've got choices, and things are looking up for the Steelers for the near run and also in the long run. It's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be an American, in quotes. It's just an exciting time to be a Steelers fan. I can say that one without quotes.